My name is Stephen C. Ricke. I am a faculty member at the University of Arkansas System Division of Agriculture. I am the Center Director for the Center for Food Safety. I'm also hold the Donald Buddy Ray Endowed Chair. And I've been a member of Poultry Science since 1992, so a little over 25 years. I grew up in south central Illinois. I grew up on a dairy farm, and so my experiences is I did a lot of milking of cows and got a first-hand knowledge of agriculture in my growing up. Probably my fondest memories during that time was being in 4-H and showing dairy cattle, and I never forget the one year I won the county championship. I was showing jerseys and I beat out a whole bunch of Holsteins, and I was quite happy with that moment. Well, I started out at a small private college down in south central Illinois, and my aspirations was to be a veterinarian, and I transferred up to the University of Illinois, went into the agriculture college, and I focused on mostly animal nutrition because I'd interned with veterinarians, and they told me that that was really where the field was going in terms of experiences and that sort of thing. And one thing led to another, and I got interested in research. Finally decided at some point not to go to vet school and go into graduate school instead, and went into ruminant nutrition. I was University of Illinois for my last year bachelor's, and then for my master's degree, and I did a master's degree in ruminant nutrition. While I was doing my nutrition work, I worked a lot with beef cattle. I got some exposure to rumen microbiology while I was there, and got an interest in microbiology, to the point where I decided I was going to do a PhD, and I went on to University of Wisconsin then to do a PhD in rumen microbiology, where I was a joint major in bacteriology and animal science, which I was probably one of the first ones to do that, and I suspect I was probably one of the last ones to do that too, because that was a lot of work doing both of those degrees. Texas obviously was it was my first career job, my first faculty position, which that meant more than quite a bit. That meant a lot to me because I'd always had a strong desire to be faculty. I had family in Texas, so that was nice. I was able to get moved closer to be around them. One of my fondest memories of Texas is that's where I met my wife, and I treasure that obviously as much as anything. And she was a Texas girl, and so I'm forever linked with Texas from that standpoint. And so I certainly enjoyed the camaraderie I had there as well, and the friends and the folks that I met and friends I made while I was there, and the research went really well. I mean, we made a lot of progress on research. Had a lot of good graduate students over the years, which is probably the other thing I treasure immensely. Really a neat project that really came together was Salmonella enteritis it was proving to be a problem with laying hens, and in particular with certain management practices called feed withdrawal molt. And we were able to put together what we called alternative molt diets that circumvented the feed withdrawal aspect, and also at the same time identify exactly why Salmonella enteritis was a problem under those situations. And we had USDA funding, we had U.S. Poultry and Egg funding, we had interest and support from the industry as well, and it was an amazing coming together of science, solving a problem, and understanding what the problem was, and therefore using that to help direct the solutions to the problem. And I trained a number of very excellent graduate students and postdocs in that program. It funded us for several years, and we published a number of good papers that I'm very proud of to this day. And it's one of the neatest come-together type science projects I've ever seen. It has all aspects of what attracted me to science: application, basic science, and problem solving. I was getting to know people from the outside of Texas to some extent, and one thing led to another. Arkansas opened up a position for a chair of the director of Center for Food Safety, and it was an endowed chair. I was intrigued because it was an opportunity to have more leadership, which I was at that stage of my career. I was ready for that. And it was an opportunity to work more closely with industry, which I was attracted by the opportunity to be able to work directly with some of the major poultry processors, as well as one of the major food retailers out there as well. That prospect really intrigued me, and Arkansas allowed me to move a little closer back to where my folks lived in south central Illinois, so I was within a day's trip of them, and that had its attraction as well. And I've always considered Arkansas to be a beautiful state, so I all of those reasons were very good attractions and reasons for me to come back or come up to Arkansas, which I did, and it's been a wonderful experience since then. I have no regrets on in making that move and transition, and my family has enjoyed being up here as well. Probably the biggest impact in my faculty career, and I didn't realize it at the time, but as I look back on it now retrospectively, I certainly have realized it, is the students and postdocs that have come through my program, and the opportunities I had to mentor those students. Very much a different mixture of students. I mean, with all sorts of different talents and abilities and that sort of thing, and it's been neat to be able to work with them to help them identify what their talents are, and then help them guide them in terms of careers and that sorts of things. And they become family over that time. You really get to know them. You get to know them personally. And then to go out in the world, see them succeed out in the world, that's been the most satisfying point in my career. One of the things I got involved in when I was up in Arkansas, and this actually was an industry initiative, the folks, certain folks from Tyson's and certain folks from Walmart really wanted to have Arkansas branch of the International Association of Food Protection. We were part of another branch, and they really felt strongly that Arkansas should have its own branch. So I came in as the academic partner on that, founding partner on that, work with them. We got the charter set up. That was 8 or 9 years ago, and it's grown ever since then. Industry has really taken the lead on it. They've really grown the meeting. It's become we won the best branch award in I believe it was 2015. Industry has really taken a pride in the association, which makes my job easy in terms of being the academic director and advisor for the organization. Our meetings have been well received. They continue to grow, and we've been able to recruit outside outstanding speakers. I think people have been able to make a lot of good connections. It's been a good experience for the students because they get a chance to have direct contact with the industry. I think that our branch is only going to grow and continue to be a sort of a mecca, so to speak, in terms of industry and academics coming together, as well as folks associated with food safety. And I think it's something that the state of Arkansas certainly can be proud of as well. Certainly it starts out with my parents. My father had a lot of influence on me in terms of thinking about my career and the responsibilities of a career and what it took to be successful in a career. You know, my mother certainly had a lot of influence on me in terms of work ethic and how to put a good day's work in. My advisors over the years, both in graduate work as well as committee members that was on my graduate committees, all had some to a lot of input on what I do. I mean, I wouldn't be here today without their counseling and mentoring and advising and directing me. I think my wife has been a really influential part of my life in terms of how to think about things. She's been a strong source of faith for me in terms of my growth in my faith, and I think that's been, that's continues to be a powerful influence on me as well. I think it's important to amass as much experience and develop as many abilities as possible. Learn how to diversify yourself, and I think most importantly, learn how to be a scholar. Learn how to constantly learn and teach yourself as you go through, and by teach yourself, I mean truly be able to teach yourself, because you never stop learning in this business. I mean, what I know now versus what I knew 2 years ago is different. You know, learning from collaborations, learning from colleagues, learning by reading the literature yourself. All of those feed into it, and I think it allows you to continue to grow as a scholar, and I think that's important, especially as an academic, but I think it's true in industry as well. I think science and the technology of science changes so much that it's important to have good basic core understanding of science, but then be able to build upon that platform to grow yourself as a scholar and as a successful academic or a successful industry person. Best advice I ever received was actually from my PhD advisor when I first started out as faculty, and I was talking about some struggles I was having working with graduate students, that sort of thing, and he reminded me, he said, "You have to remember, your students are not you." It took me a while to digest that and sort that out and figure that out, but ever since then I've adopted that philosophy and realized that my students are not me, and so that means I need to work with them and figure out who they are and identify their talents and those sorts of things, and not try to interface what my abilities are, or lack of abilities are too, for that matter, And so that advice has served me over and over again, and when my folks leave as young faculty, I tell them that same advice. I say, when you're out there recruiting students, remind yourself these students are not you, and that's, you know, and that's a good thing. And so that's been my advice over the years, and certainly the advice I've lived by. I've been married for 18 years. I met my wife in Texas. She was originally from Texas, and we moved from College Station up to Arkansas, and we've been here since December of 2005. She's my best friend. She's my advisor. She, you know, when I struggle trying to figure something out, she is right there. She can see things I can't see, and it continues to amaze me. We adopted 2 children when I were in Texas from Guatemala. They're both 14 years old. They're 7 months apart. They've been the joy of our life. I've learned, just like I have with students, that they also are not me. And you know, and I've had to learn on the job, so to speak, the role of dad and father, and it's been, you know, it's been a wonderful ride. I'm just humbled and honored. When I started in poultry science, I never would have envisioned I'd be at this spot right now. It's a tremendous honor, and I very much appreciate the recognition coming from my peers especially. That means a tremendous amount to me. And I think the whole mentorship thing of students and those sorts of things, I'm realizing more and more that that's an important part of a person's legacy, and I think I've come to appreciate that more in the last few years as I've been able to do some retrospective on my career, as well as looking at the careers of some of the folks that came out of my labs in the early years and where they're at now, and I'm certainly very proud of them. They've all had a hand in making me look good, and I'm eternally grateful for that.